Hi, this is Shambhavi. Welcome to my weekly podcast about spirituality, love, death, devotion, and waking up while living in a messy world. The Satsang with Shambhavi podcast is recorded live each week with students of our nonprofit community, Jayakula. For more information and to find out about attending a satsang, visit jayakula.org. Thanks for listening. Much love to you, wherever and however you are. Welcome, everybody. So I promised to talk about manipulation. And I've been writing about this for a while, actually, because early on when I started teaching, it really struck me how often and regularly and insistently students try to manipulate teachers. But of course, whatever you're doing with the teacher is what you're doing with everyone. It just gets magnified with the teacher. It wasn't something I had expected, but I did think it was kind of funny because everyone always talks about how teachers are so horrible manipulating students, but it goes the other way too. So I wrote seducing the teacher or seducing the guru or something like that. Sort of a laundry list of all the different ways students try to seduce the teacher, not sexually necessarily, but, with praise and anger and fantastical spiritual experiences and explanations and all kinds of things. Anyway, I don't know how many of you grew up in a household with someone who had some very compulsive behavior, but I grew up in a household with a hypercritical father, quite narcissistic and quite manipulative. And when you grow up with someone who has these kind of very strong compulsive patterns, you get very sensitized to them. So for instance, if you live for a long time with someone who has an eating disorder, you might know when their anxiety level is at a certain point before they even do. You just become very sensitized to what's going on with the other person. By the same token, I was very sensitized to the way that my father tried to manipulate my mom emotionally and me, and mostly women, but everyone too, to some degree or another. So the other thing about when I was growing up was I just learned to recognize manipulation. But then I also was kind of bratty, and, I had a strong rebel streak, and I really didn't like to be controlled. Manipulation is basically someone trying to control you in some way. They're trying to control your view of them. They're trying to control your behavior and your emotions. They're trying to control what happens, etc. And of course, it all comes out of anxiety of some variety or another. But I really just did not want to be controlled. So that was my other kind of reaction to this manipulation. One was kind of disgust, and the other one was, don't box me in, don't fence me in, don't try to control me. I'm not going to let you, kind of an attitude. So I've been very sensitive to all the ways in which people manipulate or try to manipulate each other. So then I had a spiritual teacher who was extremely manipulative. But by that point, I already pretty much knew what was happening because of my earlier experience. But I noticed other things when I was studying with this teacher, other things about people who manipulate and people who lie a lot. I mean, manipulation is sort of a form of dishonesty. It might not rise to the level of an outright lie, but it's a form of dishonesty. You're misrepresenting yourself, misrepresenting other people, etc. And then sometimes lying goes along with it. So this teacher lied outright and also manipulated people a lot emotionally. And what I noticed was that people who manipulate are easily manipulatable. And people who lie a lot you can lie to them very easily. They don't notice when other people are lying, which is kind of interesting. So being in a state of manipulating, you could be manipulating yourself, lying to yourself, trying to convince yourself of something that's not quite true. And you can be manipulating other people's view of you, which almost everyone in our culture is trying to do in some way or another. Or you could be outright lying. But when you are doing that, you're not in touch with what's actually happening. You're not in touch with how things actually are. You're not in touch with your own condition. So if I'm anxious about myself, and I have spent my whole life manipulating and massaging my self-image and manipulating other people to buy into that self-image, then I'm in some respects out of touch with my real condition. And if I'm busy manipulating other people, then I don't really notice how other people are. Don't really notice what's really going on with other people. That means that you cut off your own natural intelligence. So there's an aspect of, well, I'll just call stupidity about our attempts to manipulate ourselves and other people. But whenever we're out of touch with the wisdom that's coming to us from inside ourselves and reality, whenever we're not actually using our senses to see what's there, but we're trying to create a kind of secondary reality, then we become rather stupid. And so I think because we're not seeing what's actually happening, if other people manipulate us back or lie back to us, you don't notice. So one of the things that is really informative is if we can notice how we manipulate other people, it has a lot of information to give us about what is important to us and what areas of ourselves we feel insecure about. Obviously, this all comes out of insecurity and anxiety. We don't think we're okay just the way we are. We want to be seen a different way, or we are afraid of the natural flow of events and we want to try to control them through manipulation. We don't trust anything about the process of life, so we're always trying to manipulate something there. But usually it's about self-image, for sure, and getting other people to stay with us or stay where we, put other people where we want them to be in some way or another. So if we can think about the major forms of manipulation that we indulge in, if we can identify them, then we can actually identify where our major insecurities lie, where our major anxieties lie. So someone who's always trying to prove to other people that they're smart, and this is pretty common, talking a certain way, talking too fast, interrupting with the right information and the right answer, all the things that people do to prove that they're smart, having the analysis quicker than everybody else. This is rife in academia. If you identify, if you are able to step away from that and not just feel the compulsion to prove that you're smart all the time, because if you're just in it and you're just trying to do that, you get no information about it at all. Maybe occasionally you might wonder why someone thinks you're an asshole, but you're not, or why people are like backing away while you're talking, if you even notice that. But you might even just be too in it to even notice it. But if you can reflect on exactly the form that your manipulation takes, what is its content? What exactly do you try to manipulate other people into thinking or believing or doing or feeling? Then that is like a lot of information for you about what you're insecure about. And that's valuable information for a practitioner. And it's also getting back to what's really happening and getting out of the compulsive externalized behavior a little bit. And then just trying to relax, right? Trying to relax around that. So that's one thing. And I thought we could play a game. It's fun for me anyway. If each person here tonight could reflect on one form of manipulation that you indulge in, and then try to reflect on where that's actually coming from. Like, what work is that doing for you? What do you actually feel? And then I have had long time lying about myself that I am not easily manipulatable, that people can't really get anything past me. But if maybe some of you have known me longer, I'm very curious to sort of test that tagline and see if anybody remembers any time when they actually felt they succeeded in manipulating me in some way. And I think that would just be really interesting and fun for me and might give me some information too. I was talking to Nirmana about this the other day because she had a manipulation slip the other night. And I was telling her that I feel students trying to manipulate me so often that, 85% of the time I don't even respond to it. I might just like look at you or just go or something like that. Because it's just like too much effort to call everybody on every single time this happens. It would be like a whole lifetimes or several lifetimes of work to do that. But if I don't respond, it doesn't mean that I don't notice, but there might also be times when I actually have fallen into your web and taken the honeypot or whatever. I'd really be curious if anybody here can think of something like that, where you like deliberately tried to manipulate me and I fell for it. How you manipulate people tells you what anxieties you have. How you are able to be manipulated tells you about your clarity or lack thereof and your needs. So people respond to manipulation positively because they have needs. They have things that they want. And then the person who's manipulating every once in a while manages to land on one of those things that somebody else wants. If someone who's a chronic manipulator gets you in their grip, it's really because they are promising you something you want, or they appear to be giving you something that you want. But really, they're just trying to bind you to them with that empty promise. Anyway, that's a lot I've thrown out there. Do we want to play?
Sure.
Okay. You can either just say a way that you've noticed, a specific way you manipulate other people, or you could say if you think you've successfully manipulated me.
For me, I think I manipulate by sounding more confident than I am in work situations or even in the cooler sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one I think is I want to be liked, and so I will omit information.
Mm-hmm.
In order to be liked.
Yeah, so omitting information because you want to be liked, what does that actually say about how you feel about yourself?
Like it shows insecurity as to my own discernment. So it could be like somebody I don't want to hang out with, so I wouldn't clearly tell them that.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it vague.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some insecurity about what if I just said who I am.
Mm-hmm. Right, you're worried that who you are is not likable in some way. And what do you think that gets you?
I pretty much lose, I feel like, all the intimacy. It gets me by.
It gets me by. That's a really important point. I've noticed that a lot of the manipulation, especially social, everyday social manipulation, is just to get by. Like there's a level of anxiety in general, and then that you have certain chops, you borrow a term from music, certain tunes that you play over and over again to just get through the situation. I've noticed that a lot.
I just thought of mine. I've been thinking about it since you asked, and I'm like, it's like really hard for me to find where because I kind of, the way you have the story about you're unmanipulatable, I have a story that I'm like the least manipulative person, that I'm so direct and I'm so like, whatever. I overshare to get people to share with me.
Mm.
So yeah, I say everything about myself so that people feel comfortable telling me about them. It's like an intimacy tactic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're trying to strike a bargain with them.
Yeah.
So is there anything else behind that? Any kind of feeling of anxiety or?
I don't feel like it's really hard to get close to people, or not that it's hard to, but that I wish I could just like get in there. Like I feel, I guess it's like the separate, just feeling anavamala, just like separation. And I just want to be close to people.
I would say that you want to be quickly close to people.
Quickly, yeah.
You want to tie that knot really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's an anxiety about losing intimacy, or an anxiety about feeling lonely, or an anxiety about missing an opportunity or something like that. Someone not liking you enough to get intimate. So you're going to like try to throw out that line as quickly as possible, that rope.
Yeah, there's an impatience, which I could see as a thread throughout everything in my life.
Do you think do you feel like you've been manipulated? I mean, successfully. Obviously, there's been manipulation attempts on everyone. But do you feel you've been successfully manipulated?
That I have just recently. just last week. Oh, yeah.
Why did you get hooked by that manipulation?
It was a promise of intimacy.
Yeah.
Because it looked like intimacy to me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was wrong. I was very, very wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this illustrates something really great, which is when we're in that state of fixation or like impatience about experiencing intimacy, it clouds our clarity. It clouds our discernment, right? Someone else who was in a different condition would have seen that coming and wouldn't have stepped into it, right? And I've said the same thing to people I know who were students of various gurus and other spiritual teachers who have fallen from their pedestals, that you didn't have clarity at first and now you do. So it's a hard way to gain clarity, but it's all about getting more clarity. And in this case, also learning how to tolerate relative distance more easily, and then ultimately getting in touch with the intimacy that's always there, that never leaves us. We're always intimate with everything. That's the ultimate cure, the ultimate healing. But until then, it's just being okay with being in pain, with a certain amount of loneliness, and trying to let things develop more naturally, waiting for that clarity to come. This is what I did all throughout my childhood, up until I started practicing more seriously. As I've said at various points, I just felt searing loneliness, searing. And for whatever reason, I just sat in it. Like I just didn't try to do anything about it. I had some intuition that there wasn't any one that was going to resolve this for me. And I was right about that. But in a sense, we all have to learn to do that as a sort of interim step. We all have to learn how to be okay with our feeling of separation until we meet the right situation for us, the one that's really going to nourish us. Right? It's hard. It's very, very hard, but it's also healthy. Who wants to go next?
I've got a couple.
Oh, you? Really?
Yeah, me. One that I can think of that I think was the example from the other day is trying to get people to feel sorry for me. And I think that comes from being afraid of being weak, of not being strong enough, of being vulnerable or not capable. Mm-hmm. It seems like a tight and wrong thing.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It feels more hungry ghost to me. Like it's a way of asking someone to form an emotional connection with you and ignore the actual facts.
Yeah.
Right? It's like through pity, I want you to feel like you have to take care of me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm being you, mm-hmm. Right? If I'm you, I'm saying, oh, I'm in such a pitiable condition. You have to now take care of me, mm-hmm. And don't look at what I just did. Don't notice what I'm doing.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That seems to me the mechanism. Misdirection.
Mm-hmm. It definitely feels like wielding emotions.
Yeah. Weaponizing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about this today. I think this is tighter or somewhat connected. Is I think another way that I can manipulate is with reason and with reasons. And I think that has to do with trying to not be responsible for how I'm actually feeling and like the actual conditions that I'm in, what's actually going on here. And so there's some way of like wielding reasons.
Explanations. Yeah.
And like the intellectually the right way. It should be done like this or
mm-hmm.
or like that sort of story.
Mm-hmm. I think they're both about the same thing. They're both about the feeling that you have inside that if you make a mistake or do something wrong or are wrong, that your world is falling apart. And it feels like all of this is about misdirecting people's attention so they don't notice that there's something wrong with you or that you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
So that sort of basic feeling of it's just somehow horrific to make a mistake or to do something bad or to be inadequate at something, and so it seems like it's all about that.
It definitely feels like
misdirection.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think about how you could relate to that feeling in a different way?
The feeling of
being bad, being wrong, the horror at making a mistake.
Is it the same as like, it feels like there's a feeling just like something here is like not okay. Is it the same thing that you're talking about?
Yeah, but I think yours has particularly condensed around making mistakes or being wrong about things. So the image I'm getting is that aspect of you, because we all make mistakes and we all don't know stuff and we all say wrong things,
Mm-hmm.
that part of you is just this beautiful human part that connects you to other people. Like you're trying to disown it, but it actually, connects you to other people. The part that makes mistakes, the part that doesn't do things the right way or forgets things or whatever.
Yeah, there's that like being in the same boat.
Yeah.
It feels.
It's like, I just get this feeling of this like little tender fetusy kind of thing, but you're trying to eject it somehow or ignore it but it's so part of what every human feels and does and so connecting. I mean, we're all just kind of helpless, clumsy creatures. I would have a conversation with that.
What?
I would have a nice conversation.
For me to have a conversation with that part of myself.
Mm-hmm. And then look around at everybody else. You'll find that same thing there. This all relates to the idea of friendliness. That we, as practitioners, we must develop friendliness towards ourselves and towards life and towards our practice, towards all our foibles and our fixations. The first step is a friendly feeling toward those things. Then we can relax enough to continue in the right direction. Then we don't have to be so controlling. And doing spiritual practice is the opposite of being controlling. We are being disciplined. That's different than being controlling. So developing a friendly feeling toward all these things is imperative. You don't get to skip that part. None of our strategies are working. I mean, they might work on some people. And then, of course, if we're deep into our strategies of manipulation and we really don't have any distance on them, then we just find people who buy into it. We find people who confirm the world that we want. And then we really are going the very, very long way around.
I missed something over there when you said we have to give up all the controls even if we are being disciplined.
Yeah, as at the same time as we're being disciplined, we have to give up the project of command, capture, and control.
What was the discipline you were referring to?
Sadhana, the discipline of sadhana. Yeah.
I have this pathological need to be liked, so I tend to change the way I am with certain people so that they'll like me, or even accept their abuse, just so that they like me. And anyway, that's a great way to manipulate me. I've been doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if someone shows you affection in a manipulative way, you'll still accept that.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck with a manipulating person as a friend or a lover.
Right. And just recently, the guy that I was dating wanted to see me. And, with COVID, I didn't want to.
Could you turn the volume down a little? Yeah.
So, and so he kept on telling me I'm being stupid, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But I held my ground, but I still felt like I guess I should go see him, otherwise he's not going to like me.
Yeah. Anybody tells you you're stupid, run for the hills. Slam the door, change your phone number. It is not okay for anyone to tell you you're stupid. Not okay.
Well, he didn't come out and exactly say it was stupid, but the way he was talking about it was, and he implied that
Well, anyone who is disparaging in any way does not deserve your friendship. Again, it gets down to being able to tolerate loneliness. There's how many billions of people in the world? 6 billion people. How many of them are going to like you? I mean, how many of them have to like you in order for you to feel okay? So we have to be okay with people not liking us or just feeling neutral and it's just being okay with how life is, right? That life is varied. People's responses to us are going to be varied. We have to acclimatize ourselves to the pain of our own fixations, not getting what they want. This is so that we can have a better life. It sounds paradoxical to say, let yourself experience more loneliness and pain to have a better life. But that is creating more clarity in your life. It's creating more space in your life for the thing that's actually healthy to come in. It's showing discernment. It's not the worst thing in the world to feel lonely or to feel the pain of separation or rejection. That's not the worst thing. The worst thing is to be separate from God.
I definitely feel like a huge part of my manipulations comes from that fear of loneliness. And what you said earlier about trying to keep people, the fear of being left alone, basically. And the one that I think I manipulate in all kinds of different ways, but I feel like peeling away the layers, that's what's underneath. The project that I put a lot of energy into is making myself indispensable. That's all wrapped up in the helpfulness thing. This is really helping me to see what's behind that, like the underlying just basic insecurity about my worth and feeling like I have to earn it, that it's not something that's just inherent in me, that I work at it.
I can definitely relate to also just being afraid to lose people, and even if I'm not feeling like a situation or relationship is satisfying. I don't know, I think it has to do kind of with that, what you were talking about before too. Sorry, I can't think of how you said it. When in being in integrity, having integrity, it's sort of there's this thing that's happening, but I am looking the other way and pretending like it's not happening to just kind of keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think so many people do that just to have any company of any sort.
Exactly.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then definitely there's Titan realm stuff that I have going on too with where I try to manipulate people to think that I'm sort of further along than I am or something, the spiritual stuff. Sometimes I'm talking in a certain kind of way. Yeah.
But we should really try to laugh at ourselves and feel kindly toward ourselves and friendly toward ourselves. Loneliness is not an easy thing. It's a pain. It's a form of pain. But it actually is our real condition until we discover more of our continuity with everything, with nature, with God. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have friends and people to hang out with, but it is very worthwhile to put up with some pain and loneliness and find the right people to hang out with. Anybody thought of an instance where you really pulled one over on me?
When you said that in the beginning, I was thinking about, I guess in the beginning of getting involved, I might have been manipulating myself too, but the just super enthusiasm about every aspect of everything. And I think part of it was because I wanted to feel that way. So I don't think it was to get something out of you, but then when you did buy it, I enjoyed it. So I think I fed it.
How did I buy? Yeah. What was the sign? What were the signs that I bought it?
You just answered me. when I think when you're seeing through me or somebody, they can ask you a question and you'll answer a different question because you're talking to what's underneath or what's around or, so I would say things to you and you would talk directly to what I was saying. Like, even if there was some whatever the word is, like
disingenuousness.
You would still believe me, I guess. And I was like, oh, cool. We'll just keep going down this path. I feel like, it did make a difference to me. Everything got real when I was in Maine. So I do think there is a lot lost over video streams, unfortunately.
Well, that's really interesting what you said, Rebecca, because I think two things about that in my experience, not just with you, I mean with everyone. One is that when people are new, I tend to, in some instances, not always, but in some instances, just kind of go along with whatever they're doing because they're new, and I'm sort of holding back and I'm being more ordinary with them, basically. So there's that. But then there's also my overweening optimism, which has definitely been a major source of overbuying into other people's enthusiasm or protestations of interest in the teachings. So that is definitely something I have been fooled by, right? Because it just took me a really long time to get over my own feeling of optimism that was an aspect of unclarity, basically. It's hard to describe. You're looking like you have something to say about that.
I believe in people.
I feel everybody's basic goodness, but, you can't damn the details. And that's something that I've actually been recovering from my whole life. That's very, 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 very slowly. I used to literally explicitly think the details weren't important. Like my teen years, I just thought the details weren't important. Everybody, if I felt goodness in somebody, I didn't really care about anything else about them. And then I got into all sorts of trouble. And then eventually I realized, no, the details actually are important. Right? But then when I started teaching, I still had too much enthusiasm. When other people expressed enthusiasm, I bought into it. It was unclarity.
What do you mean by the details?
The details of how people actually behaved I've been in recovery from idealism and optimism. It sounds funny to say, but it's made me a better teacher.
I really relate to that. Because I really connect to the people's way. I call it their way. It's like just the way they move through the world, but not what they're actually doing and saying. Like I miss things because I'll enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be really attracted to charming people, charisma. Mm-hmm. And now I feel a little bit repulsed by it because it feels like manipulation. Like a lot of, I know charisma can show up to different people in different ways, but just real smooth talking, charming kind of.
Yeah, I don't think that's really real charisma, but when I think of real charisma, like the 16th Karmapa was like the most amazing charisma in the best possible way.